That's my word.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's. I think it's time to move on to what Isel's doing on YouTube. Sure. All in all, what Dumb Vegan's doing on YouTube.
Sure. Sure. Well, if you want to, we could both say why we could both do a quick statement about why we started our YouTube channels. I mean, is that what you're asking, or no?
Well, I mean, we could start with that. Sure. Go on.
Okay. If you got something else in mind, we can do with that. But I started my YouTube channel right after my divorce, or right after my split up with my wife. Still legally, we're not divorced. We're still in court getting divorced. And before that, I had this blog that Durian Ryder helped to make famous called Vegan Mind Tricks. Durian Ryder has consistently said that there's something evil about the name of that blog, but you can check it out. It's a good blog. So my first experience with kind of being a voice in veganism, known to people, was that blog, which was briefly really, really popular within the Tumblr demimonde. And Tumblr is truly a demimonde. And I got to kind of rehearse a lot of the bullshit that I would later deal with on YouTube there. So it really warmed me up for the level of hostility and false rumors. Even then, people were just when it was a blog with no video, with no audio, people made up stories that I was sleeping with other people on Tumblr and stuff. And it was dude, at that time I was married and raising a newborn infant and living in France. It was ridiculous. So all the crap on YouTube, you can also have on a blog or Twitter or Tumblr or something, you know what I mean? And then, after we split up, it was very unclear where I was going to be living and what I was going to be doing. So one of my main reasons for starting a YouTube channel was if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I want my daughter to know what I sound like and what I look like and what was important to me. And one of the first, if you watch the really early videos, one of the reasons why a lot of them talk about Buddhism, I did not want my daughter to think that I was a true believer in Buddhism, that I was a superstitious believer in Buddhism. Because I knew when she grows up, one of the first things people are going to tell her is, your father used to be a scholar of Buddhism. So it's really easy for a kid to think, oh, okay, this is, for that to influence a kid pretty deeply. That's part of the legacy of the family. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about was, what does Buddhism mean to me? Why was it so important in my life? And why did I move on? And to make it really clear that I never was a superstitious believer in Buddhism in that religious sense. And then obviously veganism already was a huge part of my life. I mean, and so a lot of my videos are about veganism. I did not assume when I started the channel that veganism would be 99% of the content. Well, I don't know, maybe now it's 95%. I do talk about some other stuff. I actually assumed at different points that politics, politics in Asia and maybe even politics in Canada, would be a larger part of what I was doing on YouTube. But I could not get anyone to cooperate with me. Taiwan is one thing, but then I moved to Canada. I was living on the west coast of Canada. So if there had just been a couple of smart, bright-eyed people living on the west coast of Canada who wanted to talk about politics or make anything happen related to politics, I would have put that on YouTube. But there was nobody and there was nothing. So veganism was really the one thing on my channel because it was the one thing I could do alone. And the first year on YouTube was real lonely. So, and now it is what it is. Now, I'm the most famous vegan who makes videos saying that I hate vegans. That's what I am. I'm the number one self-hating vegan. That's my niche, man. Okay, so how about you, man? Why did you decide to get in the YouTube game?
I guess, I should obviously preface this with, saying, there's no question about it. The Dumb Vegan YouTube channel is completely irrelevant at this point. There's no question about that. I'm not making any, any misconceptions about that. I'm not kidding myself. But I think, I just had to. At a certain point, you watch enough, people on YouTube and like I say, I've been vegan for 2.5 years. Was watching the videos for a while before that. And you can only watch so many of these videos until you start to wonder if you've got something to throw into the ring. And, sometimes you just feel like you got to throw a little wrench in there as well. Yeah. And
do you have a background in theater or in comedy? Do you have a background of that kind?
No, not really.
No, it seemed to me you came out as a bit of a pro. You seem to really know what you're doing in terms of putting together a comedy sketch.
Yeah, I have some experience doing acting and stuff, in film and video production. So I felt like, hey, I mean, that part of it is kind of the cinch, and then let's just see if I can figure out, something that I can feel like, I don't know, like that I wouldn't get bogged down doing, and I definitely don't want to be. I mean, what's the point of having taking your channel in a direction that there's hundreds of other people doing. I did try that like a couple years ago, and it wasn't sustainable. I was like, well, I mean, this just isn't doing it for me. There's people that can do the more straightforward stuff much better than I can.
Right.
Well,
I mean, remember, like, Vegan Gains. Vegan Gains came at this as a guy whose background was in professional photography. Just like, and it's like when you think about it, for Vegan Gains, he had to make such a transition. He had to buy wigs. He started doing sketches, but you can tell any of the unscripted interviews with Vegan Gains, he is not naturally that kind of guy. He is not the kind of guy who can get on stage and improv or, MC an event or just be a charming, actor. He's just not that type at all, but he managed to really do it. So I just say for you, like, I'm not going to flatter you unduly, but in terms of looking at your first bunch of videos, anyone who looks at your first 5 videos and then goes way back and looks at Vegan Gains' first 5 videos, I think they would say, oh, wow, okay, this guy, Dumb Vegan, you got a shot. Now, obviously, the upper limits of stardom within the digital vegan demimond are pretty low, but for sure, I mean, I think you could put it this way: you could easily have as big an audience as Joe Vegan ever got, or bigger. So I say that to encourage you. And Joe Vegan, again, there's a guy with zero background in the theater, zero background in the arts, and for a while there, he really built up, a big audience. So if you want the encouragement, I think that's a very reasonable encouragement for me to give you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take encouragement from anyone. So, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think the upper limits of stardom. I'd have to get on the gear and be making some serious gains if I ever wanted to get into these higher levels of YouTube echelon, because you kind of have to have the whole package to that Vegan Gains level.
I really disagree, because look at The Amazing Atheist. He's pretty hideous, and he always was. And when he started off, he was even uglier, And he really managed to build up a following just based on, I guess, his sense of humor and his commitment to coming on camera and ridiculing himself. So,
That's true.
Yeah, so I just say there are real examples of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my message to other people that would be interested in, I would say, like, well, don't worry about that. You just, as long as you have the commitment, and as long as you're willing to take criticism and be willing to look at yourself objectively and what you're doing, and be able to sidestep or pivot when necessary, to keep things going. Don't go down a road that's not going anywhere. Things like that. Then yeah, I mean, virtually anybody can have success if that's really what's driving them, and that's really what they want. I mean, that's remains to be seen. I'm just dabbling my foot in, and even just seeing what the whole thing's about. So
sure, but the other thing that's great about YouTube is just that you meet people wherever you're living, unless you live in Kunming, China. Because YouTube is illegal in China, in case you hadn't heard. Can't watch it here. But, like, even if your channel has a smaller number, I mean, for me, back when my channel had a smaller number of viewers, still, like, on my university campus in Canada, other vegans knew who I was. And, I think that's a really positive thing. And again, like,
yeah, and I mean, I guess, yeah, again, for anybody that is interested, in trying it out. I mean, it's kind of funny because, like, nobody's watching my videos yet, which is totally cool. But, your ripples, there's a couple little things that, like some ideas that I put out there, and I've seen, little aspects of things that have popped up in a couple other people's videos, and I'm like, I might just be flattering myself, but I have a feeling that they were a little bit influenced by something even, and I know that, some of these content creators are watching my videos because there's been a couple comments, and, I can hear them talking about them or whatever. So I would, encourage people to say, like, you might not get a bunch of views or anything like that, but at least you'll feel relevant even if you aren't,
I take it you live somewhere in the United States? Like, obviously I don't need to know, but, like, what state or what general region do you live in?
The Pacific Northwest.
Oh, no kidding. So you were actually quite close to where I was when I was in Victoria. Okay. Victoria, BC is basically the Pacific Northwest. Okay, well, I was just going to say, I think even, one of the concepts I've talked about a lot on the internet in relation to religion and politics and veganism, so not always vegan, is the idea of a crossroads. You create a crossroads and then you see who shows up. You know what I mean? But I think definitely in the Pacific Northwest, there are so many vegans there, so many people interested, that, it can bring positive people into your life, I mean, for me, I got a question on YouNow a couple days ago, but only a couple days ago. Someone was asking me, would you ever date a YouTube viewer in real life? And I said, man, everybody who knows me in real life is a YouTube viewer of mine. Like, if I meet a woman here on the street and give her my phone number, like complete stranger, the reality is the first thing she's going to learn about me is my YouTube channel. Even if I don't tell her, she's going to Google me and find me or whatever. So, like, the way YouTube interacts with the rest of your life, you know what I mean? It could be negative. It could be that someone who meets me or someone who's hiring me for a job, the first thing they see is Durian Rider saying what a despicable person I am. That's all right. But, I think that's a positive thing for the future for most of us, is that you put up a YouTube channel, it becomes a crossroads, and people have something in common with you. Maybe it's that they have a sense of humor in common with you. Maybe it's that they have a certain kind of activism in common with you. You can meet those people, and otherwise I think you never would, or you'd be a long time waiting.
À-bas-le-ciel.